Hello, this is an overview and introduction to using Docker to build and run a code that's available on GitHub. So let's first grab that code, git clone. The code is called Ignis. It solves premixed and non-premixed flames. If we go into Ignis here, normally what you do, it's a terminal-based application. You'd use cmake to build the code, so make a build directory, go inside, type cmake make install. But there's a lot of other software that's needed to build this code, so we can automate both the installation of that software and the running of it using Docker. So for any of this to work, you need to have Docker installed and running on your machine. I'm using a Mac, so I have Docker desktop installed and running. Let's go into the Docker folder. It has a Docker file. So if we look at the Docker file, we're going to create an image with Docker build. We're going to call it Ignis img. And that's going to make basically a Linux image here using Alpine with some added packages. And then these are the commands to install sundials and YAML and Kentera and radlib and sutlib so that we can finally build the code of interest here, Ignis. So let's go ahead and do that. Docker build. Okay, and that's going to run for a minute or two, and so we'll just pause and come back when that's finished. Okay, so that finished, and we can see the image with Docker image ls, and it's about 1.2 gigabytes. So now that we have the image, let's go ahead and run a container based on it. Look at the Docker file here. We're going to create and run a container. Docker run, we're going to name it Ignis container. Then we're going to make a bind mount between our local machine and the Docker image. So we're going to bind path to Ignis Docker, basically this folder, to the /home in the Docker container. So let's go ahead and run that command here. And we'll change the path to be where it is on this machine, /codes. Okay. Okay, so now we're in the container here. In the /app folder, you can see that we've installed some of the software, radlib and sutlib. Ignis is in /app, and it's installed, and it will run. But it's convenient to copy it over to Ignis, copy it over to our home directory, because that will let us, that's mounted to the host machine. So if we exit out of this, you can see that we've now got Ignis in the same folder because of this copy command where we copied it from this /app to the home, which is mounted to this directory. And so we can go between those really conveniently. So to connect back, let's look at the Docker file. We can connect it to the existing container that we just made with Docker start AI Ignis container. So we're back in there. Let's go back to the home where we copied it, and then Ignis. Oops. Let's see here, run, and we can run the code. /Ignis. Okay, so that ran, and then we can see the files that it created, premix.dat and IC for initial condition.dat. So if we look at those, premix.dat, it's basically temperature, enthalpy, density, species, etc. profiles as a function of x. Oops. So now if we exit out of here, we can see in this Ignis folder on our host machine, in the run directory, we can see the premix data, so we can edit it, anything we want. If we add a file, touch this file, then if we go back into the Docker start, if we go back into Docker, container, home, Ignis, run, we can see that same file. This file, if we remove it here, this file, then it's also removed in our host because of that mount. So that's particularly convenient, and is a simple way to both build the code and to interact with it in a way that doesn't require installation of other software. If we look at that Docker file, when we run Docker, there's various ways to run it. This -i is interactive, and that's what lets us drop into an interactive shell that we can work with. Okay, and that's about all there is to it.